Hey guys, this is your warning. We do post up spoilers. At times we're relatively offensive. We use vulgar language. So if you think that any of those are gonna offend you in any way, shape, or form, take your step back right now. Cause buddy, this is not the place for you. Anywho, have fun listening to us, and yeah, this has been your final warning.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cinematic Anarchy. I am one of your co-hosts, El Jefe.
And this is Omar, another one of your hosts.
Another one of the co-hosts, yes. Back after a bit of a hiatus. Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Well, you had to get your life settled, get your things going. That's fine. You know.
Get it all the way together.
Shit hits the fan for everybody every once in a while, and in the world of COVID, it shits. It hits the fan a hell of a lot more often than it should. So,
well, yeah, in the world of COVID, the hit shits.
We are going to be discussing a rather terrible film.
Jesus Christ!
By all stretch of the imagination, this film should have been fantastic, but there were so many things that, if it had gone the right way, this movie would have been almost palatable. But it ended up being just a true comedically bad piece of shit. It really did. We are talking about 1992's Highway to Hell, a straight-to-video release starring Kristy Swanson, Chad Lowe, Patrick Bergin, Jerry and Ben Stiller, and of course their sister is in there somewhere as well as Jerry Stiller's wife. You have that's Anne Mara, if I'm not mistaken. You also have the scattered likes of Lita Ford. Gilbert Gottfried is in it. This entire film is just littered with, honestly, I wouldn't call all of them A-level material, but people that had a really decent career in film, and they all gathered together to have this nice little low point, you know?
Yeah. I'm not sure what happened.
Something that they can look back on and say, things might get bad, but they will never be Highway to Hell bad. It was pretty terrible. The basic idea is you have two young, soon-to-be newlyweds. They've run away to get married in Vegas and go down this back road to which they run into the Hell Cop, which takes them to the Highway to Hell. Or one of the circles of hell, anyway. And I guess
the poster said, "Where the toll is your soul."
Where the toll is your soul. I don't get a lot of soul stealing from this movie at all, like even remotely.
It was soul numbing.
Oh God, it was. I think a lot of it had to do with the soundtrack. The soundtrack was just not what it should be.
And all those little songs, little tiny little ditties were all misapplied to the scenes. You mentioned it before I watched it, and you know, it was something I was expecting, but not to that extent. It was like everything was where it shouldn't have been.
It was really bad, and it felt like sort of a series of little sketches that sort of were tied together to be one cohesive film. It didn't feel like the storyline itself was well thought out.
There were just a whole bunch of different scenes that were basically just grumbled up together in an order that will get chronologically make sense, I guess, to tell the story somehow.
Well, the one thing that this was missing, originally they were trying to get AC/DC's 1979 classic Highway to Hell for this, but they spent so much on the actual production that they couldn't afford to license the song. And
good for AC/DC. Lucky for AC/DC.
I don't know who made this fucking decision, but they decided to go with a cheap piece of crap kind of, I want to say it was like an alternative / pop soundtrack instead of the hard rock soundtrack that they had originally imagined for this. And I think a decent score and a decent soundtrack, music set in the right areas, or at the very least if they had stayed with hard rock, that
they could have gotten a band practicing in a garage, and it would have been better than what they ended up with.
Right. I think that's a lot of where they lost the momentum for their film. If they had the soundtrack that they had originally wanted, or at least something similar along the same lines.
I don't think that's where they lost the momentum.
Oh, no, I don't. I think that it would have...
They never really had it.
It would have been more of an average B movie than a straight-to-video, oh my god, why the fuck did I even watch this kind of movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the soundtrack was the borderline between being a passable cult classic and a one-off movie that I honestly will never pick up again. I'm not going to watch this again. I tortured myself once. That's about all I needed to do. With the exception of a second watching just to have a couple of things fresh in my mind. So, there's a lot to kind of unpack with this movie, as junky as it was. There's a paranoia. I guess Kristy Swanson's character, Rachel, has advised her mother about what they were going to do because she didn't want mommy to worry. And so now, Rob Lowe's character, Charlie Sykes, is constantly worried that the cops are going to be after them, that the mother's going to send the cops to hunt them down. So the whole movie starts out with him paranoid about cops to begin with. And then the literal cop from hell pulls them over because he falls asleep behind the wheel. That is probably one of the best parts of this movie. And I think if they had leaned a little bit more on the hell cop and less on Patrick Bergen's version of Satan, then this movie would have been much better. Beelzebub.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a play on Beelzebub?
Yeah.
I guess. It's not a very good one. I guess the whole idea is that he has been abducting young women and making them part of his little legion. You know, several of them. And kids, too. I mean, he has a kid that he abducted. He has another guy, Royce, that he abducted as well. And people that are constantly fighting to be sent back to the surface to do Satan's bidding on the surface. I'm trying to figure out ways to talk about this movie in even a palatable manner. So we start off in the diner, and they drive off, and the whole reason they even end up on the road down the road that leads them down Black Canyon Road is because Charlie's paranoid that the police officer from the diner is following them, who, by the way, is also playing a game that they called Highway to Hell.
Yeah.
Which looks like a rebranded... you ever see that old video game, Road Rash?
What the name of it?
I wanted to say it was like Road Rash or something like that. I don't know what the name of that cabinet game is.
Road Rage, no?
Road Rage? Was it? Maybe?
Road Rash.
Road Rash. Ooh, okay. I don't know what the name of the thing is. I'm going to have to go look that up. I feel bad because there's things that I should have researched, but...
Let's go to the Google.
Well, it's not... I can't even find that in Google. I am sitting here trying to look for it. But when it comes right down to it, there's things that I should have researched, and for the most part, this movie, it was just so bad that I didn't want to research much. It felt like investing time in some... I warn people off of this movie. Unless you really want to see some early performances by Ben Stiller, Gilbert Gottfried, stuff like that, definitely not in their prime. I would warn people off of this.
Well, that wasn't that early for Gilbert Gottfried.
I think... No, that really wasn't. I guess that might have been the prime of him doing cameos in film. Like, just around that time. I think my favorite performance in this movie, just after they, not escape, but they drive down Black Canyon Road away from the cop that they thought was after them, and after his girlfriend thoroughly turns him down because she doesn't want to have sex for the first time in a fucking Pinto.
Yeah, well, he told her to picture a Porsche.
Picture a Porsche. Yeah, but
she should have pictured a Porsche.
I don't blame her. You don't want to lose anything in a Pinto. You don't.
Except for the Pinto itself.
You might want to lose the Pinto. If you looked at that Pinto, a lot of pieces were falling off. It looked like that bumper was tied on.
That Pinto got pretty banged up in the little accident that happened when he almost fell asleep.
Right.
But all that shit would have happened to that Pinto anyway if it hit a speed bump.
Well, it was already banged up. I mean, if you saw the bumper when they were pulling away, it looked like it was tied on. You know?
Yeah, no, that Pinto was like a kick away from falling, a tire kick away from falling completely apart.
Like that, I can't remember. There's another movie. That's another scene I remember. You remember the guy kicking his tires and just the car just falls apart. The sides fall off. Everything just falls. You just have the frame. And they find themselves face to face with the first character that I really liked in this movie. Richard Farnsworth, fantastic actor. He plays Sam, the old station owner, the gas station owner. And by the way, I love the gas pumps of this place.
Oh yeah, they were super antique.
Right? When's the last time you saw a hand crank gas pump? Ever?
That was the first time I've seen one. I mean, I've seen it in pictures. I've never seen one like that in person. I've seen it before in movies and stuff.
Yeah,
but I never seen them. I never seen one of those in person. I don't think anybody uses that anywhere.
No, well, it's entirely possible they do. It's just not any place that's a main road. This is like one of those things that you would find. One of those back alley towns that just they don't want to come into the 21st century at all. They want
it's entirely possible they don't. They don't want to come into the second half of the 20th century as it is if they use that.
They prefer living. They like living the simple life. So Sam is actually where you get introduced to the idea that Satan here likes to gather himself some girls. Sam said he fell asleep on that road, and when he woke up, his girlfriend was gone. Just completely gone. He couldn't find her. And that is Clara, that we get to see a little bit later on in the movie, who ends up being the side piece to Royce on the... Amazingly, now that's one of the pieces of the cars that I love, the vehicles that I love, the motorcycle that Royce drives that is literally bronze chrome from head to toe. Or brass, maybe? Brass? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or were we going for bronze, brass, or copper? One of those colors. I have no idea.
It looked, from my TV, it looked like brass more.
Probably brass. I think that was probably one of the best vehicles outside of that scene where they're chasing to get back to the highway to hell to leave the place, and you just have this massive just race of Volkswagen Beetles. Just tons of them.
Yeah.
Apparently a bunch of Arizona locals, they put out an ad, and a bunch of Arizona locals came and they drove their Beetles to the set for this scene and then drove them themselves during the scene.
Yep.
So they basically put on loan all of their vehicles for this particular the scene for the movie.
Hopefully they got paid good for that.
I should hope so. It's probably one of the better scenes in the movie because you know it's about to end. So look at that. We're getting to the very end of this movie. That's beautiful. Let's get out of here as quick as humanly fucking possible. And they found the turbocharger underneath, and so they did. Thank God, because that race was dragging on. Sam basically tells them, do not fall asleep. There's 2 Joshua trees. You pass the first one, do not fall asleep. If you are tired, do not fall asleep on this road until after you have passed the second Joshua tree.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they're young, impetuous kids. They didn't listen to a fucking thing that he said. And so
exactly.
Everybody, including the damn dog, falls asleep.
Yeah, the horniness affects your hearing.
I think it's happened to me a few times. Horniness tends to affect all the other senses.
Teenage horniness more especially. Because at this point in my life, I have listened to my better judgment in moments of horniness and just said no. But when I was a teenager, when that voice talked, that was the only voice that not only I could hear, but the only one that mattered at all.
Well, that's because when you're a teenager, those hormones, they rage. It's like everything gets dulled, and that takes the front seat. When you get to be of a certain age, like we are at this point, the hormones have taken a nice even murmur. We're good.
Yeah, they're chilling.
I'm not losing my senses over it anymore. It's good.
Yeah, no, it's a whole different ball game with the hormones at that point, and it's more of a let's see if you learn your lesson the first time shit happened to you.
Back when I was a teenager, just say no. Nancy Reagan would have been upset with me. Let me tell you.
Because you said yes all the time.
That's her whole campaign. Just say no. Nah, I'll say no to no. I'll say no to no.
In the meantime, he was a raging alcoholic.
I didn't do much of anything, but I drank a bit, and I smoked cigarettes, which I realized was a bad idea. Real bad.
I just did like 2 things, but did lots of it.
Right? Hey, those things aren't terribly bad.
I didn't experiment much. If you get it, I was scared of a lot of chemical stuff. I was scared of anything that I didn't consider natural. I was definitely scared of. So, with that being said, no cocaine, no heroin, no nothing except for marijuana and mushrooms.
You gotta understand where I came from. I had a lot of cautionary tales to look at. A lot of cautionary tales. Yeah. So,
I can imagine.
I had been around people when they were on coke, heroin, acid, whatever, and I want to thank, and if I don't think they're listening, but I want to thank each and every one of the morons that I grew up with that showed me just how fucking stupid you can look on certain drugs, because then I never did them. I'm like, oh, if that's what this does, I'm good.
Well, there's that.
I'm fine.
Well, I saw even worse results than that. I saw a few people OD growing up, and when I say growing up, I'm talking about as little as 8 years old. I saw people OD.
I had a foster brother of mine that went a little crazy. He I don't know what he was on at the time, and I don't care what he was on. All I know is
rather not know.
It flipped a switch in his head, and he went out into the hallway and took the fire axe and just started taking out the walls in his apartment.
Ooh, very heavy.
Yeah, when you've done just enough drugs that the first thought in your mind was, now I need to do something with a bladed weapon. Something that people may want to stay out of my way during. You're border.
Definitely.
You're borderline on the way to American Psycho murder there, you know?
Yeah, it's some crazy, some heavy, not just I was high and did something stupid. No, this was like super serious. I do know a guy that tried to kill his parents, and it was the first time he was trying something, and we never really got to know what it was. His dad shot him, didn't kill him, but shot him. Nothing crazy. He didn't lose a leg or an arm over it. He still has the scar on his shoulder. And basically, they were able to restrain him.
I think that the main problem is that if you're going to do anything, you have to be able to know and trust the people that you're getting stuff from. Because you can end up with things laced with other things. or a very low quality product. And if you're not paying attention to who you're getting your shit from, you kind of deserve what the fuck you get.
Yeah, I will say, like, if you're that much of a rookie, this is some level you shouldn't be getting into at this point.
That being said, just to make a minor segue here, I think this is the first time in a long time that I've sat down and watched something that made me wonder, why aren't I doing more drugs?
I'm telling you this, though. That movie didn't come from a sober mind.
I don't think it's that it didn't come from a sober mind. I think that what happened here was they may have had a script or an idea of what they wanted to do, and I got the feeling that
it was just poorly executed?
At about the point that they started filming the desert scenes that were supposed to be hell, I think that is the point where they just said, look, we have a script, but it's only written up to this certain point. Past this, I just want you guys to ad-lib.
They just winged the rest of the whole thing.
Oh my god, yes, definitely. This was, I love Ben and Jerry Stiller, and this is probably one of the worst performances I've ever seen by them. Like,
they might probably be denying they ever did that.
Though, I will say that I think Ben Stiller was a hell of a lot more animated than his father was in this. I think that the diner scene was actually supposed to be a personal hell for bad cops. I really do. Well, it's like the hell cop is the only one that can actually get coffee, which apparently seems to be acid as well. And I got that feeling from Jerry Stiller because he's sitting here just begging for a cup of coffee. I need coffee. Give me coffee. And the waitress will not stop telling jokes.
That was the Hell Diner.
Yes, that was the Hell Diner. And, of course, the cook is outside, not cooking inside, but cooking on the pavement just outside the door.
Hell, this sounds about hell.
Well, it's an old play. It's a play on that old joke. It's so hot outside, you could cook an egg on the sidewalk.
Yeah. I got that. It was a graphic pun. Which wasn't bad. There was things about it that came out okay for the comedic horror purpose. It was just overall very poorly executed, in my opinion.
Like all of the workers picking up trash on the side of the road were all Andy Warhol.
Yep,
they were all Andy Warhol. And then you had the scene where they're letting people into hell, and the name of the company is called what was it? Best Intentions Paving Company. The road to hell is paved with best intentions.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty good.
There were a lot of things that it's just overall very poorly executed. They had a great story. They just didn't do what they should have with it.
I think, like I said, I think that it would have been a passable cult B-movie if they had the soundtrack that they were going for. And I really feel like somebody should not necessarily remake this movie, but do a secondary cut of it, where they cut the actual music back into it. License that stuff from AC/DC, because I think that if you gave it the soundtrack that it needed, it wouldn't have been as painful to watch.
Christopher, they could have got Highway to Hell by Beethoven licensed, and this would have sucked.
All right. This is my love for really, really terrible movies shining through. Like, I do love terrible movies.
You had hopes for it. Still, if they would have,
if they would have done this, if they could have done this.
They could have done it with the same actors, different probably director, or probably a better budget. Then it would have been a passable movie. The actors were good, but it was just poorly executed.
1992, I would have replaced Chad Lowe with John Cusack.
See, that would have been a good choice, but I don't think Chad Lowe did bad at all.
I don't get that feeling. I think that he overacted a little bit. Like, he really, really overacted in quite a few scenes.
He overacted in all of them.
I don't, or it's entirely possible he acted just the right amount, but everybody else underacted so bad that he seemed like he was overacting. Like, everybody else's acting went right under the radar. There were a lot of good sight gags throughout the film. Like, there's the tow truck that Satan's driving, Beazle. Right on the back of it says Satanic Mechanic, which is a call to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I thought was pretty funny. I felt like the scene where they were driving through and the leg falls on the hood of the car, and he throws it and it just kind of stands up behind the car. Did you feel like that was a throwback to the leg lamp from The Christmas Story?
I believe so.
That's kind of.
I thought of it right away.
Also, that was right where the
when you're talking about the leg that fall off, it was still moving.
Right.
That just fell, and it was just still moving, like kind of hopping.
Yeah, it was kind of still wiggling in its place a little bit. Did you hear the stories that those people were telling just before they got put into the chopper? Did you hear that?
That was pretty crazy.
I let little Susie drink bleach. It's just a lesson that she had to learn for herself. What? Yeah. Like, the thing is, I would feel like that was off-putting if it wasn't for the fact that I've heard excuses like that from people about letting people... Yeah, like the woman
real
who
life?
said... well, like, the woman who said, like, I slept with my husband's boss because I was trying to help him get ahead.
Well, the boss got ahead.
Well, yeah, he got ahead. I've heard people make excuses for, like, I'm not to blame for Susie drinking the bleach. She needed to learn that lesson for herself. Well, she's dead. She learned. You know, I'm not to blame for...
It depends how old was she.
Right. Right. But it's like people trying to pass off the blame. Like, I'm blameless. Well, that's why you're in hell, because you truly believe that you were not at fault there. You know? There's a lot of stupid there. All right, we're going to take a very quick break to let our sponsors speak for themselves, and we will be right back.
Also, to let our brain cells rest from talking about that horrendous piece of work.
Right, I have a numb buzz going on between my ears right now. I need to just kind of shake my head and let that loose. All right, so now that my head is not buzzing with the tone of emptiness from having talked about the film, let's go and give ourselves another migraine and dive back into this. So, Charlie is in hell, and he basically gotten the vehicle from Sam to get to hell, or back to hell, so that he can save his girlfriend, Rachel, from the hell cop. He has no idea what exactly he's doing. He just knows this is the highway to hell, and essentially he is in hell. And none of these people seem terribly threatening outside of Hell Cop. Like,
nope.
None of them.
They look goofy.
I can't think of a guy that really felt threatening outside of maybe the ice cream scoop guy. And yeah, very goofy. This is him trying to find his girlfriend, and he's asking around, like, where does the Hell Cop take the girls? And he goes, well, he runs across the hitchhiker, played by famous rocker and Runaways front woman Lita Ford. And he asks how to get to how to get to hell, and she says, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, baby.
Yep. Pretty much. Lita Ford, man. Rock and roll legend of Fords.
And this is where we meet the ice cream man for a very brief time, who, you got room for two, and then the ice cream man descends on the car. I'm guessing she's thinking about stealing his car or whatever. Ice cream man hops onto the car. I'm gonna scoop your brains! I'm gonna scoop your brains! With the ice cream scoop. And this is where I complain about the lack of actual practical effects. Apparently, when your head explodes in hell, you are essentially a dust or a sawdust-filled papier-mâché bust.
Pretty much.
Because he shoots the ice cream man point blank in the face. It looked like a plaster of Paris balloon just exploded.
Yep.
So I don't know if they were trying to keep it at a certain, like, I don't know if it was a grade level. I want to say grade level, but it's not grade that I'm looking for. This is a rated R film. I don't know what it's rated R for outside of saggy demon tits later on in the movie. Because there's no gore, really.
Oh.
Very little, anyway. There might have been a lot of cursing, but for the most part, it wasn't a bloody or gory movie. There wasn't a lot of nudity, though, honestly, it could have used it.
Definitely.
They didn't.
That would have helped.
They didn't do enough. They didn't make it an exploitation film, right?
That could have been that.
It was like they had taken a sketch comedy show and decided to do an episode in hell. We're going to call the Arizona desert hell, and we're just going to say, yeah, this is a sketch comedy show in hell.
They're not that far off.
I mean, everything that you saw Ben Stiller do was all sort of solo work. Like him trying to convince Kristy Swanson to eat a rack of ribs. What are you, a vegetarian? You like this? It almost certainly tastes like chicken. Well,
Definitely.
If she is vegetarian, chicken is not vegetarian. I don't know what you're trying to sell her on. You could have said tofu. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen rib-shaped tofu. Like, they shape it into ribs. And
just knowing that they're trying so hard makes me not want to eat it, though. And I like tofu, but when I see oddities like that, I'm like, I guess not.
Tofu is tofu. You don't need to shape it like meat and then calling it's like a pseudo meat. No. This is not the Play-Doh Fun Factory. You don't need to shape the pseudo food like. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like tofu. I'm not fond of it, but maybe it's just because I've never had it cooked correctly. I am not a tofu eater.
I'm not gonna say I would eat tofu regularly, but with the frequency, which is once every 3 months, I don't have a problem with it. I would rather just go full vegetarian meal than eat tofu just because it reminds me of meat. I'd rather just eat, sweet potato, kale, and onions and peppers still fried, and it will be a great meal if it's seasoned well rather than tofu.
The name tofu it makes me feel like the guy who named it was thinking of somebody that had had a severe foot fetish up until the first time that he had a toe in his mouth and realized it just wasn't for him. And tofu came to mind. Tofu. Yep. It was a bad joke. You're more than welcome to call me on the bad joke. You're more than welcome
but it's all right. You get to.
It's not even a dad joke, just a bad joke to go with the bad movie. My brain hurts. I have legitimately watched this movie twice and played it a third time in the background while I was working one day. Okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I saw Kristy Swanson, and I actually watched another movie with her in it. I've only watched half of it, but I'm very intrigued so far. There's another early Wes Craven movie that she starred in called Bad Best Friend. And where's this? It has this genius kid who moves to a new town, and he kind of, I don't want to say falls for this girl, but he becomes really close friends with this girl who has an abusive dad who ends up pushing her down the stairs one day, and she ends up brain dead. And so this genius kid dismantles the brain of his robot and puts it in with her brain, and basically Frankensteins her the fuck back to life. And the first few moments where she's back to life is where I left off, so I gotta watch the rest of the film. But it's early Wes Craven, so I'm thinking it's either going to be really good or it's going to be the movie that he made all of his mistakes on before becoming really good. You know? Because, I mean, even James Gunn, the guy that's doing the Suicide Squad movie and did the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, he had his stint in Trauma, where he did bad movies.
Oh, yeah.
I subjected you to his Romeo and Juliet. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir. Thank you for reminding me of that. I appreciate it so much. I just needed that reminder today.
No. Not, hey. For once, I can say that movie was less painful to get through than this one is. You know?
True.
I mean, at least that had enough. They knew they had a bad movie on their hands, and they did enough to make it so, at least between shock value and other weird sight gags, they didn't hold back on the gore when they needed to. I'm trying to understand how a movie with that low a budget did so much better than this movie that had a $9 million estimated budget.
Exactly.
This is a straight-to-VHS film. $9 million. Do you know how much it made? Do you know how much this movie made altogether? Grossing in U.S., Canada, and worldwide. $26,000.
Oh, my God. Well, can't blame them.
So, it was a limited release in theaters. I would
have charged them to let me see that shit.
Right? We'll pay you to watch this. Come sit down and watch this film. We'll give you $5.
I would have charged them something.
Right? But that's what I'm trying to understand. How much was AC/DC asking for Highway to Hell? Because they obviously didn't spend... They had to have spent most of it on the souped-up car, possibly even the makeup that they used on the Hell Cop and the overly sexualized demon and... the Satan face. I think it went into prosthetics. Because there wasn't really enough. Like, the makeup, the special effects makeup was the best part of this movie. Which now I'm beginning to see why that's one of the few awards they got nominated for this film. They got nominated by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films for a Best Makeup Award, a Saturn Award. No idea. This is not an awards film. I'm losing you here, aren't I?
That gotta be just an award that they probably will give a short film, a commercial, anything. They just threw that in because there was nothing else that they could have given an award.
I mean, was there, though? Is there really anything else they could have done? At all?
Yeah. Who the hell knows?
So the makeup artist, the guy that did all the makeup for this, he actually got the idea for Hellcop's makeup from Clive Barker's Books of Blood. And so far, if you take a look at Hellcop's chin... And this is going to require you to actually watch the movie again. But you can see inscribed in the letters in the work on his chin, it says SJ plus LQ. That stands for the makeup artist, Stephen Johnson, who did all the makeup art here. And his girlfriend at the time, Linnea Quigley, who was a famous scream queen. So that's a nice little thing to look for if... you really want to subject yourself to this shitty movie. You know? If you want to subject yourself to it, look at Hellcop's chin. That's probably the only thing worthwhile, his chin.
Yeah, pretty much.
The other thing, I'm trying to think. There's a lot of stupid shit that happened in this movie. Like, I think I had a problem with the handcuffs. The cuffs made of hands. That was kind of a weird sight gag. I think maybe they kind of... What is it? Is it the Thing? Thing? Is that what they call it in the Addams Family, the hand?
The hand?
I think it's just Thing.
Yeah, Thing.
Just Thing. The little hand that runs around in the Addams Family. So I think they got that sight gag from that. That was horrible. And the death of Hellcop is the worst. Your main weakness...
Hellcop, the makeup was pretty good, though, but it was everything about that cop was all over the place.
The cop's main weakness, and I don't know how they figured it out. I know that the kids said it's his eyeglasses. Shoot him in the eyeglasses and you'll kill him. Why? Why is it the eyeglasses that kills Hellcop? And if eyeglasses, getting shot in the face there is what would kill Hellcop, don't you think that he would do more to protect that part of his face?
I would say.
I mean, he did seem like a big, dumb, brutish animal. I mean, he didn't say a fucking thing the entire film. It's entirely possible he couldn't say anything because, you know, he spent 2.5 hours in the makeup chair. If you speak, your prosthetics will fall off. Shut up.
Exactly.
Hellcop had lines until they realized the makeup wouldn't work with it. I don't know. I don't know if there's much more to really say about this film. I think that I don't like how they ended the movie. The weird pop tune that they went out on, it didn't feel right at all. Like the music that they brought everything in on was fine to kind of set the beginning of the mood, but that ending music, that weird kind of you may get what you want in the future kind of thing, or next time you'll get what you want, or whatever the fuck that song was. It was terrible. It didn't end the movie in a satisfactory manner. It just felt bad altogether. You know? I did like that line where he's trying to convince Charlie just before the race. Satan's trying to convince Charlie, you know, if I make you the quarterback for the Rams, would you give me Rachel? And he puts the hat on. He said, if you had said the 49ers, I might have. But you know what? Go to hell. You didn't, so go to hell. And the first thought in my head there is when he gets home with Rachel, she's going to have a fucking word with him.
I can imagine he would.
What do you mean, if he had said the 49ers, you would have given me over?
Yep.
You know, he kind of tipped his hat there, like, well, if you had told me I'd be the quarterback of the 49ers, Rachel's expendable. You know, but you didn't, so go to hell.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like, what a shit guy.
He was ready to sell her off.
You're going to screw me in a Pinto and sell me down the river for a job as the 49ers quarterback. You suck. Like, severely. Maybe next time, it was performed by Deborah Parson, whoever the hell that is. This movie has a soundtrack. It's got a 6-song soundtrack. The Ice Cream Man song, Give Me Water, Devil Owns the Highway by the Throttle Boys, Maybe Next Time, and a song called She's a Deceiver. So apparently this had some kind of actual musical soundtrack. I wonder if they ever put out a CD or a record, considering how old this is.
Who knows, man? But it almost makes you happy the Highway to Hell, that they didn't get Highway to Hell.
Yeah, you know, it might have ruined AC/DC for me. You know? Like,
yeah.
Why would AC/DC sell out? Maybe that's what they did. Maybe they saw the movie and just went like, fuck no, man, we're not letting you use our song for this. We're going to set the price so fucking high you can't do a damn thing.
Definitely. That's exactly what they did, and they did it intentionally. And I don't blame them.
Interestingly enough, they shot this movie over 2 months between October and December of 1989 before releasing it in 92 in the United States. And so basically they have a movie about hell that was filmed during the coldest months in Arizona. It's like, I think even that might have helped it out a little bit. Like if they had filmed it in a much warmer climate and the people were sweating a little bit more, you know, just like a natural sweat because of how hot it is in hell.
Exactly.
I think that having a little bit of a sheen of sweat considering they were very adamant about the fact that Charlie and Rachel are not dead. They are living human beings in hell, and they are able to cook. They're cooking fucking eggs on the sidewalk. Somebody should be sweating. If you're not used to being there, at the very least, they should have taken every 5 seconds and just walked on set. You ready to start the next one? And then just sprayed them down with a spray of water. Okay, you're sweating. They could have done that.
Exactly.
Something to make you feel like these two living human beings were actually in hell.
A little bit more of a... Yeah, I understand what you're saying. More of a psychological proximity to what you will consider hell to be. Not some goofy fucking circus show.
No, it was,
to say the least.
It was just sort of like a land of really goofy misfits. It didn't feel like hell. And, the only thing that felt like hell was, you had the three people. You had Hell Cop, felt like hell. The zombies in the diner kind of felt like it, but it felt like maybe that was just the cop's personal hell. All bad cops go to this diner, and they just sit here waiting for their food and coffee and never get it.
Yep.
All waiting for the donuts that will never
come. Their own version of hell.
But, the demon, the one that tried to seduce Charlie partway through the movie, that kind of felt hell-like. In that I think they might have spent quite a bit on that little pit underneath the bed, too, the special effects that they got for that. It's these are the only digital effects that we can afford. Whoop, there's $4 million of the budget just for that hole. And, so you had Hell Cop, you had the one time that you see Satan in Hellface before learning that it's just a manifestation of Beezle. I don't like Beezle as a name at all. I think that it
Beezle for Beelzebub.
Well, I get that he was trying to seem more personable, but I don't think that he played a particularly intimidating Satan, at all. I think that they made a misstep with him as Satan. There's so many people that could have played Satan that Patrick Bergen just didn't seem intimidating enough.
Yeah, definitely.
You could have used the like of Ed Harris could have played Satan very well. I think they used him possibly because that's all they could afford. Probably half the budget went into the actors. Patrick Bergen was still fairly popular around that time. I think he had just done a very, or shortly thereafter anyway. Actually same year. Patrick Bergen did Robin Hood. He also released the Julia Roberts film Sleeping with the Enemy. So he was still producing fairly decent movies in 1991. Even around the time that they were recording this, you had a couple of decent little things. Mostly TV stuff like Active Betrayal and the Mountains of the Moon. The Real Charlotte was a TV miniseries that he was on. 91, he had another TV series that he had Sleeping with the Enemy and Robin Hood. So he was kind of at the height of his game around that point. And I think this was the one low point just before the big movies came out. This is a shit movie for him. Really bad. So I'm wondering if this hurt him. He can do serious really well, but intimidating, he showed that he can be intimidating in Sleeping with the Enemy. So why couldn't he pull that off for Satan? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly thinking that whole thing not only didn't come out of a sober mind, but also a lot about getting it made was nobody was sober during that whole process. Honestly,
do you want to know what my thoughts are? You've seen this movie, right? Obviously. Nothing about this movie screams $9 million budget in 1991, or 1989 for that matter. Nothing about this movie screams that kind of budget. So I feel like maybe they kind of pandered to the studio, got a nice budget, and said, hey, everybody, look, this is what we're going to do. We are going to do this film as cheaply as fucking possible. And everybody's going to get a really nice payday out of it. All right?
Exactly.
The studio was stupid enough to give me $9 million, and what we're going to do is we're going to give them a film. Not one they can use, but we'll give them a film.
Exactly.
This was truly a really bad movie.
Oh, yeah, it really sucked. And that's what made it funny, to be honest. It was how bad it sucked.
So IMDb, the overall rating out of 4,000 ratings on this, 4,400 ratings on IMDb. It's an overall rating of 6.0. How would you rate this?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I mean, going by IMDb standards, I will give it a solid -3.
-3. It's
solid.
Not only are you not giving it points, but you want them to give you points because of this.
Just for making me watch.
They should give you a rating just for having watched the whole thing through.
Exactly.
I'm going to just go by the little bits that I liked. If we go by Sam, which was probably one of my favorite moments, all the interactions with Sam I really liked. The makeup artistry, I want to say sets and location were not too bad, but that's all it had going for it. So
yeah.
At best, if we're going by IMDb standards, I might give it a 3.5, maybe a 4, at best. This is not something I'm going to watch again. I'm not sad that I watched it, because it was just bad enough that there was a lot that I could pick out and go, that was fucking hilarious. It was so bad. And I like to be able to look at a movie that just, it took me out of my head for a little while, and I'm like, this is horrible. How the fuck did they get this made? Oh, that's how they got it made. $9 million. It only made $25,000. All that money went to the actors.
Definitely.
You know?
Definitely. It wasn't, probably like a little over half that whole thing went to that.
Yeah, they went home and they lined their pockets a little bit, and Chad Lowe didn't really do a whole lot. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to go look into this real quick, but I am watching a TV show that and I might be mistaken, but I think I saw him as a producer credit on a DC television show that's currently running, which I'm going to laugh. So he's in a couple of different series. He is in Young Justice, Supergirl. Come on, producer credits. It's not letting me see anything. Okay, he's only got 2 producer credits. I'm wrong. Look at that.
He's probably requested that his name is taken off of it. Like, by the time he sober up, he decided my name can be connected to this shit.
No, we don't want to do that. No, don't want to. Oh, no, I'm wrong. Not producer credits. He has been directing different little things. So he's directed a lot of DC television shows. Chad Lowe, he's directed episodes of Titans, The Flash, 9/11 Lone Star, which I can't even say that 911 Lone Star is a good thing, because his brother works on that show as an actor. Of course he's going to direct an episode. His brother's like, give him a bone. He's not doing anything. He's directed for Supergirl, Pretty Little Liars, Notorious, Bones.
Yep.
Lots of TV shows. So he's been doing a lot of directorial stuff right now.
Yeah.
Probably realizing after watching this a few times over, hey, yeah, I shouldn't be acting. Okay, let's go move into the directing seat now.
He made up for it with Bones, in my book. He made up for it with Bones. Is a very good show.
Oh, Bones is an excellent show. Most of these shows are pretty good. Supergirl is a pretty decent show. I like the Titans television show. If you ever get to take and sit down and watch the Titans show on HBO. It is dark. It's gritty. It is not like a lot of superhero shows that you see. And it starts off with the former Robin, now Raven or something, not Raven, Nightwing, sorry, saying, fuck Batman.
Pretty much.
So we're going to go ahead and tie up the show here today. Thank you, Omar, for sitting down and discussing.
You have a shoelace?
Yeah, right.
Tie it up.
I'm gonna tie it up and hang this movie right out the window.
Definitely.
Thank you for choking down yet another horrible movie and discussing it with me today.
Water helped.
You can find our podcast on most of your social media platforms. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're on Tumblr, so on and so forth, Reddit, and we are also on Pinterest. Also, you can find our podcast pretty much wherever any podcasting application that you use to listen to podcasts. We're everywhere. Spotify, iTunes, Google, Podbean, so on and so forth. And soon, we should have a Patreon channel up and running, and you'll be able to get little extras that we're going to be doing, a lot of gaming, so on and so forth, some fun little things that you'll be able to get exclusively through Patreon once it is up and running.
Yep.
And as Miss B is fond of saying, we've been signing off on a lot of podcasts lately doing exactly this. Drink some water, you thirsty bitches.
Yeah, most definitely.
I'll be honest, it doesn't sound quite as good coming out of my mouth as it does Miss B.
We need to have a recording of her saying it and then just making it a sound clip at the end of the thing.
Well, she's said it enough. I can just take a sound clip and just pop it on the end.
And with the sounds of yours truly, we say sayonara.
Sayonara.